ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Security Expo podcast. And today we are talking about the moment when the digital world literally opens doors to physical ones. My guest is John Kououtzoglou, founder of Secure Tactix, here to unpack his talk, When Doors Lie, Real-World Cyber Physical Breaches and How to Stop Them. John, welcome to the podcast.
John, thank you for having me.
This is going to be confusing for everyone listening to it when we keep calling each other John.
I know.
All right, so you've got a couple of really interesting real-world examples that you want to talk us through about, you know, when cyber sort of mucks up the physical world. The first one that we're going to touch on was the water treatment plant. Can you explain to the people listening what actually happened here?
Sure. So the Maroochy Shire sewage treatment plant had an upgrade of its industrial control systems. Now,
are we talking SCADA systems?
SCADA systems, correct. Now, they had a vendor come in, and the vendor installed a new system. Now, the chap, Vitek Boden, he was the engineer that installed the gear. Installed it, went away. He actually asked the council, the sewage plant, can I have a job with you?
Yep.
They said no.
Yep.
So he gets upset.
Okay.
So, over a couple of days later, people, the residents of the local area, are noticing a funny sewage smell in the local river. They're going, what's going on here? Now, the plant engineers thought, faulty systems, right? They didn't think much of it. So what this guy did is, he parked his car a couple of 100 metres away from the plant, gets his binoculars out, gets his Motorola 900 megahertz kit, connects to the SCADA system through wireless radio, and starts opening valves.
Wow. Okay.
800,000 litres of raw sewage got released. Madness. No one understood what was wrong. They thought it was a faulty system. They kept going through the plant records, couldn't work out what it was. Finally, someone caught on. They said, hang on. We're getting an uncommanded response somewhere else. This is not from the system itself. This is somewhere else. And, human nature, can be very interesting. We like to fall into a particular routine. So same time, every day, he kept releasing valves. So the cops were waiting. Security guards, they had everything, and a bit of surveillance. And they said, right, that sounds like him. So he was in his car, laptop, user manuals, all the evidence you need to make an arrest. They swooped in on him and, caught him.
So I guess the big question out of this one then was this actually a flaw in the SCADA control process, or was it more that this guy, while he had been given access to the system, had installed an access point that he was then using to get into the system remotely?
Well, a bit of both, actually. Look, the kit that they were using back then was fairly standard. Look, what are the odds of someone remotely logging in and sending a command? So the standards, we're talking about 2005 odd, the standards weren't the best. That was one problem. The second problem was the plant engineers, when they took over the system, they should have asked the most obvious questions. How did you log in? What did you do? Remove any accounts. The problem with this system was it had unauthenticated access. It's just the way it's built.
Right.
And it's a bit of a convenience. So the plant engineer, if he gets an alarm going off, he gets his little tablet with the radio antenna on it. He can see which valve has failed. No need to log in remotely and waste time, right? The telemetry is very quick. That's what they did. He took advantage of that. He installed the gears. So he had that insider knowledge. He knew about their practices as well. Obviously, he would ask them, so he knew what they were capable of, and he worked around that.
Yep. I have seen similar things in the past where I was in a surveillance room in a casino, and we won't mention which one in Vegas some years ago, and one of the people in the surveillance room, the head of security, had asked me a question about something, and I said, I'll show you. What's your Wi-Fi password? And he's like, there's no Wi-Fi down here. I'm like, yeah, there is. He's like, no, there's not. I'm like, held up my phone. Yes, there is. There it is right there. He's like, there shouldn't be Wi-Fi down here. Oh, well. So we went and backtracked where it was, and it was, again, one of the network techs had installed an unsecured and unauthorized access point within the network that no one knew about. But again, you could have found it in 5 seconds flat just by looking for a Wi-Fi signal.
This is the thing here now. What they could have done very simply is bring in a security test team. Or they could have even done this themselves and just look for any radio telemetry signaling leaving the building and just do a bit of testing themselves. A bit of curiosity would have come a long way. Part of the blame goes to the actual SCADA equipment manufacturer. They should have thought of this scenario. You're talking about critical infrastructure, right? This is not your home Wi-Fi. Part of the blame goes there. But I really, personally, I would have put the majority of the blame on the plant engineer, the main plant engineer, who should have been on top of this.
Yeah.
You know when you do red teaming, you think, okay, if there was a terrorist attack or if there was some sort of any attack, where would you obviously, what would be the obvious vector? He should have thought of the radio telemetry equipment. And we're talking about some very simple kit here. You can buy it on the internet, right?
Yeah.
The plant was at fault. They should have known better. Number 2, they should have tested the equipment to some level. Number 3, from an offboarding perspective, look, maybe even doing a bit more investigative work, maybe having long-range CCTV just to see what's around you.
Yeah.
Look for activity that is not normal.
Yeah.
And obviously the other one, which I forgot to mention earlier, some sort of a monitoring system. If you get an abnormal command coming in, it sets off alarms. At least you can sort of recover as much as possible from the damage.
Yep. So speaking of abnormal and real world coming true, tell us about Ocean's 12. What's going on here? This is more than just a Hollywood movie, I believe.
Yeah. So in 2003, there was a chap called Leonardo Noto Bartolo.
Not Leonardo DiCaprio, different.
No, different. Actually, this guy's quite flamboyant. There's a bit of if I can get into the story about this guy, you'll laugh at this.
Yeah.
So the Antwerp heist happened in 2003. The movie Ocean's 11 came out in 2001.
Right.
The theory is he was somewhat inspired by that film.
Okay.
Now, this guy was known, he was born in Palermo, Sicily. He was known to be a forger. He was known to be a fraudster. He was known to be a jewel thief.
Right.
He didn't believe in violence. For him, it was the silent getaway.
Okay.
Never, ever engage with someone and hurt them.
Yep.
And he'd like to be surrounded by rich and wealthy and powerful. He just wanted to fit in.
Yep.
He wanted the yacht and the med. Easy lifestyle. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yep.
So what this guy did is, so Antwerp's got the largest diamond exchanges in the world. He went to one in particular and he had his team set up. This is not a 2-man job. This was a 10-person team. Months and months of training and practice. So this guy had insider information. He had blueprints, actual blueprints of the vault. He knew where every sensor stood, how they worked. He knew when every guard would do when they do a patrol. He knew what security and incident management measures they had in place. A 10-person team, right? Men and women, right? Everyone had their own jobs. Gets into the vault. So hairspray. So you've got infrared sensors, right? Mm-hmm. He knew where they were. Climbed over them, under them, all that, like you see in the movies, right? He had his own video recorder, his own camera. He pumped off bogus feed into the CCTV. We're talking.
Wow.
He knew the model of cameras, that everything, nothing tripped.
Do we know how he got all of this information?
I was reading a report. They reckon he's bribed employees. He actually had his own people working. One of them working for the Antwerp vault in some capacity.
Wow.
He found the others through surveillance and bribed them, like in the movie where George Clooney bribes various people in the casino. Same thing. Here's some money. Give me that.
Wow.
Blueprints or not, he actually found the vault blueprints for the lock-in mechanism. And there was no heavy tools here.
Yeah.
Basic tools he got in. Right? Emptied the 100 million in jewels. Right? They only recovered $1 million. A couple of days later, so the vault was done, right? No one noticed it. Empty vault, come back in. What do we do? Police were onto it. They went to businesses across the road, and they said, "Do you have CCTV footage?" They go, "Yep." They go, "Okay, this guy looks a bit out of character." They went to Interpol. Interpol go, "Yep, we know about him." They go look at all hotels in the local area and start from there. They find his hotel. He did. There's always a lapse somewhere.
Yep.
There's never the perfect crime.
Yep.
It seems like the perfect crime. It's not. So from the hotel, I think from memory, he took some napkins, took them to the crime scene, dropped them somewhere.
Right.
So they had a starting point.
Okay.
In the hotel they go, in his room, that's don't touch. The blueprints were there.
Yep.
A half-eaten salami sandwich was there. So they had DNA.
Okay.
That's what gave him away, because they already had his DNA records from Italy. They found some basic tools, right? The very basic tools. Then they said, right, there's got to be more to this. They looked at where else he could have been. There's a little forest not far from there. So they did a bit of a search. That's where they found the heavy equipment.
Yeah.
They found the empty sacks. Right. They nabbed him. He got done. They're waiting for him.
So what are the lessons that we can take away from that particular incident? What should the Antwerp of Exchange done or could do to prevent that sort of thing from happening again?
So a reliance on physical and cyber security alone without a human involvement is where the weakness was.
Right.
If you had a couple of more alert guards, or if you had a better structure in terms of guarding, one, they couldn't be corrupted. This would have been prevented. At the very least, it would have been detected.
Yep.
They wouldn't have gotten that far. It's the human flaw here that just really unsettled the whole thing. When you know guard movements or you've paid off guards, this is where it was all falling apart. Technology is easy to beat. The technology won't complain to you.
Yep.
You can do whatever you want to it. It's the human factor here that was the weakness, and everyone kept saying the same. Look, the fact he had blueprints.
Yeah.
He was ready in. And they reckon he did simulated drills back in Italy on similar style. He had set up the detectors and everything, and they just practiced day in and day out. So he was very determined.
Wow. So it's that human social engineering piece that ended up being the downfall.
Absolutely. They targeted the right people as well. They knew who to bribe, they knew who to... And he was never violent. It was always about, hey, you look the other way, he's 10,000 euros. Wow, it's not going to take you long, an hour. Yeah, just look away.
Yep. And it's interesting because, you often hear security personnel being told in their initial training, if someone seems like they're too much of a friend for it to be too good to be true, or if you suddenly start having all these issues with your vehicle or family finance, and then a friend that you've only just met appears out of the blue and offers you money, be careful. And this is a good example of why. Now, they're not the only two examples, though. You've got some others that you can talk us through. What's the next one?
Yeah, there was this one here is a little bit unsettling. Verkada is a US-based company that we're based out of California. They do cloud-based security. So CCTV cameras, sensors, they all talk back to the cloud. So you can be anywhere in the world, you'll get the telemetry, you'll be alerted. So their CCTV cameras were hacked by a hacktivist by the name of Tilly Kottmann. She's a Swiss citizen. She's an ex-developer, so she knows a lot about software development. So she scans GitHub repos, which are development repos. She finds the Verkada source code with hardwired credentials for super admin. Admin123, which that was the actual password.
Wow.
Now, she logged into, she used this credential. She thought, okay, they're probably isolated to a test or dev environment. No, this was production. Gets into Tesla, gets into General Motors, gets into psych wards, gets into hospitals, into prisons, live footage, right? Into police stations. They're interrogating people, interrogation, live footage. She's got access to it. She takes the footage, puts it on TikTok. And she says, come and get me. You're weak. Your cameras are terrible. They don't work. The best part, there was no tenant isolation. All the systems, one database.
That seems like a fairly weak super admin password to be using. Surely someone along the line had to figure out that needed to be changed.
Well, the intent's there to get rid of it. So the reason why developers, you shouldn't hard code credentials, they did it, saves you having to log in.
Right.
So you've got various test teams. You don't have to worry about passwords, right? It makes it a little bit easier. It's a bad practice. You wouldn't. And the easy fix was you do a peer review of the code, or you run an automated scanning tool. You would have picked it up. These guys had bigger problems. No multi-factor, nothing. Login, password, and off you go. So she gets in, right? And before you know it, she's got access to everything.
Wow.
She puts it on the web. She said, I'm a hacktivist. I think she also got into Mercedes-Benz in Europe, a couple of aerospace firms. The biggest whinger was here, Elon Musk. He goes, hang on, she logged in Tesla. She saw proprietary processes, which we don't ever show. So he is the one that kicked off the FBI to say, go and get her. The FBI launched the case. They went to Europe. They couldn't extradite her. She's a Swiss citizen. She's under home arrest, I think, at the moment, and she continues doing whatever she does. And she just proved the point. The system is completely flawed. Verkada, the thing that saved Verkada was it's a privately held company by 3 venture capital firms. There's 3 shareholders only. That's the only thing that saved them from revolt. What they did is they learned that lesson. Immediately they bring in experts. They rebuilt the environment. Now there's multi-factor. Now you've got separate tenants. They've done all the right things now. But it was absolutely dangerous what they've done. Imagine psych wards, right? You're seeing people being tied down and treated distressing, right? It's a loss. It's an absolute loss of trust, isn't it?
So what lessons can organisations learn or take on, from these breaches about what they can, should, and could be doing differently?
Well, in the Verkada case, a cyber risk led to a physical security breach. They need to understand that the two, now cyber and physical security are intertwined. A breach in one, in particular cyber, will most likely lead to a breach in physical security. They're so well tied. There's no longer isolated. And I think the message here is as well, when doors lie, the theme I chose meant taking security at face value and assuming a door is going to keep you secure. Believing the branding and the marketing rather than the actual risk management element of it. And this is where companies, they'll look at something and say, hey, it's been tested. It's got the underwriter's laboratory tick under it. It's good to go. It's got a tick that's been tested somewhere. Have you verified this? No. Do you understand how you're interconnecting these two systems, what the worst can happen? And I think a lesson for companies here are talk to your own staff. Ask them, how are we vulnerable? If you were to commit the perfect crime, how would you do it? Very simple question. Ask your staff.
Yeah. One of the other examples you cited, but I don't know if it's still in this presentation, was the issue around Strava heat maps and how that was used to uncover a base in the US. Can you talk us through that particular example?
So with Strava, what they did is cloud linked. So the military personnel had their smart watches integrate with the Strava app.
So for those people who don't know, Strava is a fitness tracking app.
Fitness tracking app, yep. Where you get your blood pressure, your steps, your heart rate, all these nice telemetry bits, oxygen levels. It does all these nice little bits and pieces. It's a great way to, monitor your fitness levels, whatever you want to call it, if you're an athlete and what have you. So soldiers liked it. They could see their endurance levels. The problem is it also geolocates as well.
Yeah.
So you can track. So if you do long distance running, you could see various elements of your track, how your heart's performing, your breathing, all these nice little things, right?
Yep.
The adversaries logged into Strava. They understood. They looked at the map and go, okay, military base not too far. You got a couple of thousand soldiers. A couple of hundred of them have got this. This must be soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Let's do a Google Maps. Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, we can track now soldiers.
Wow. Okay. So what lessons should organisations take on employee wearables and location exhaust from that particular example?
Sensitive business sectors, I think, need to sit down and look at these a little bit differently. In particular, if you're in the defence sector, if you're in the intelligence sector, if you're in even if you're a journalist, around the world, you've been tracked. I think there's got to be a level of skepticism in this level in these technologies, as convenient as they are. They also leave digital breadcrumbs as well. You just have to assume you're being monitored at some level.
Yep.
Just because there's a login and a password does not mean someone else cannot monitor you.
Yeah.
That's the one I'd give away. But in sensitive, I do know of a few industries where they'll say to you, in defence, certain defence contracting firms will say to you, you're not allowed to have a smart watch, okay? And your phone goes in your locker or goes into the metal cookie tin. It doesn't come out until you finish your shift or whatever, right? They'll do that. They get a little bit paranoid, but it's not a bad thing. That's the lesson there. Relying purely on application security, you're not going to get that.
Yeah. So if you were writing an OPSEC or operational security policy today around this sort of thing, what 3 must-haves do people need to have for around geolocation data? And I guess the first one is go into the apps and make sure it's all turned off.
Turned off, or the ability to disable geolocation data. Strong authentication. Not anyone can get into it. Multi-factor is a must.
Yep.
And encryption. If your data does fall into the wrong hands, the database does get hacked. It's undecipherable. They're the 3 I'd be looking at. Look, I will say something to you, and this is the paranoia that comes from me. I don't own a smartwatch. I've got an old mechanical watch. It's easy for me. I don't have to charge it. But part of that paranoia is I don't get monitored as well. Yes, I do have a phone, I suppose. You are right. But it's one less thing. These connected smart devices today, very difficult to control. And don't forget, every time we add a new app, whether it's a fitness tracking app, whether it's a music app, you do not know what telemetry it's giving back.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to control. The convenience is there, but you're losing a lot of data as well. So it's very difficult. Geolocation's a very difficult one to beat.
Yeah. Is there a common thread amongst all these examples that you can point to that you sort of say, look, in all of these things, it was X?
The reliance on technology out of the box to work. The reliance on technology to basically be robust enough to prevent an attack. So people don't like bringing in the human element. I've got a brand new lock. Why do I have to worry about it? How many people are going to hack the lock?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. That's how someone will actually obtain an unlawful entry. It'll be through that lock. Oh, but it's got a tick on the box. It's been tested. Well, have you verified it? It's that, again, the premise of the whole theme, when doors lie, the marketing carries higher value than the actual risk management element of it. Yep. We're easily conned into believing what people tell us.
Yeah. And as ridiculous as it sounds, because, you would expect that at a professional in the security industry level, you don't leave default usernames and passwords in devices, and yet apparently that happens very frequently.
Look, I've always said this. I reckon now you cannot get away without security testing. I know it's expensive, and I know it's time consuming, and I know it almost makes it sound like the organisation is weak in some way to get security tested. It's a necessary evil. I've said this, if you cannot do this yourself, bring in the experts. Do not DIY security. It's dangerous. Bring in the expert consultants to build things for you. Bring in consultants to test things for you. You've got to get that level of independent assurance. I can tell you this, if I had a hotel chain and I ordered 5,000 smart locks, just because it's got the underwriter's laboratory tick next to it of some obscure security rating I've never heard of, I'm not going to take it at face value. I'd buy a model of each lock and say right to my own testers, go pay someone 50 grand, whatever it is, test these locks to the nth degree. Are they good?
Yep.
You would do it. You just wouldn't risk it. You would just do it.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our session, but let's finish off with a bit of a lightning round. I'll give you 3 different questions and we can try and get through them quickly.
Yep.
First one, most overhyped security feature in smart devices?
I'd say biometrics.
Okay. Reason?
You lose if you hack the device and I take your biometric, I can replay it as many times as I want. It's just as bad as a password. And guess what? You can't replace a biometric.
Yeah. But isn't it only applicable depending on the algorithm to that device?
Correct.
Yep.
Now, if that device has interconnectivity to other devices, if that's used as your multi-factor for other devices,
Right.
you're pretty vulnerable, I'd say, to some
Yeah.
level.
Okay. A control you love because it's boring but it works.
Separation. And I'll give you an example why separation, I mean that. People like to have all their email accounts on one. I'll give you an example. On your Apple phone, you'll have 20 email accounts on your Apple app, right? All done. I've got a couple of email accounts which I use for various sporting activities and the like, and throwaway email accounts so I don't get bothered by marketers. I don't have them sitting on my main mail app. They've got their own separate loggings, and I use them through the web browser, right? So if a compromise occurred in one, it just wouldn't flow through to all of them.
Yeah.
A bit of separation. I like that. It's boring.
Yep.
It's a pain in the ass.
Yep.
Having to log in every time with a different password, remember it.
Yep.
But hey, I'll do it. That's just
Yeah.
me. I'm a little bit paranoid about it, but I'll do it.
Okay. One breach headline you wish people would stop misreading and the real lesson they should have taken from it. For me, it's the one that you first cited, where everyone sort of thinks that that's a failure of the SCADA process control software, where that is by no means the only issue at play there.
Blaming technology or blaming the vendor is the one which I think is interesting. It's the easiest scapegoat. Microsoft or Google or what have you, right? I think the actual end user or the actual acquiring organization needs to wear some of the responsibility, right? You don't just, you just don't take a device as it is default, in its default format, and actually use it and expect it to be super hardened security-wise for your particular application. I think you've got to do your own research. I hate to say this, security is just not automatically out of the box running the way you want it to be. It is a process. It is a lot of testing. It is a lot of configuration. And blaming the product, I think, is a cheap way to get out of it. Every time can I do a second one on that
Sure.
too? That's one, blaming the product.
Yep.
I think also we don't understand. You've probably heard of Scatter Spider.
Right.
It's doing the rounds now on TV, right?
Yep.
On mass media. People are saying, oh, geez, the banks are vulnerable. Everyone's vulnerable. These guys are impersonating help desks and the like, right? These guys are good.
Yep.
No. They're not good. These guys are smart. They're paying off help desk and call desk operators.
Right.
They're threatening them.
Okay.
They're getting credentials. A lot of them even work for them as a second job. This is a side gig for them, right? The hacking side.
Yeah.
They have the insider knowledge, but no one wants to admit that because it unsettles the whole industry.
Okay.
I've heard of a story I was just reading the other day. There was, I think it was in Europe, there was an organization. It uses a call center. They just updated their help desk policies. They advised the call center of that new policy. The next day, a breach occurred. They knew the process. Explain
Wow.
that. So everyone said, okay, if the organisation is immune to some point, it was the call centre. That was the weakness. They somehow communicated that to the cyber criminal organisation.
So again, keep those human factors locked down.
Lockdown. Social engineering is one of the worst. Insider threats, I've always said this, are the most dangerous. Very difficult to counter.
Yeah. So in closing, if listeners could do one thing in the next 72 hours to reduce their risk, what would it be?
Listen to your staff. If they tell you something is wrong, trust them. Absolutely. Go with your gut feel. If something looks abnormal at work, follow it up. Number 3, test. Get security testing done, both on physical and on cyber infrastructure and cyber systems. Get it done. I always believe in a second opinion. Get testing, and at least do it once a year or so.
Yeah. John, if people want to know more about Secure Tactix, where do they find you?
Okay. I'm not big on social media. You're going to hate this. The best way to get me is on LinkedIn or my email address, john at securetactics with an X.com. So john at securetactics.com, or my LinkedIn profile, John Kououtzoglou. That's the best way to get me, and I'll get back in contact with them.
John, thank you very much for your time today. It's been fantastic chatting to you. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to see all the latest in security solutions and hear from the latest security experts and thought leaders like John, make sure you come to the Security Expo. You can find out more about this year's and upcoming year's shows at www.securityexpo.com.au, and we will talk to you on the next podcast.